Hey everyone, welcome to Crime Chronicles. Here I'll be sharing chilling true stories about gruesome murders, strange historical events, haunted places, and all those stories that make you go, what on earth is wrong with people? Fair warning, some of these stories include violent or disturbing details, so please check the description to make sure this episode is right for you. All right, let's dive into today's story, Unit 731. Before we start, I want to give another warning. This story is packed with horrifying details, a dark reminder that human cruelty knows no limits. So please make sure you're ready for this one. The most terrifying thing about war crimes isn't just a single monster. It's when entire groups of people come together to carry out acts that go against every shred of human decency, and then justify them in the name of a greater cause. Even worse, others watch, and no one stops them. Today we're talking about Japan's war crimes during World War II, specifically the horrors of Unit 731. For years, Unit 731 was treated as nothing more than a rumor, an urban legend. Its existence was denied, its details hidden. Now, World War II officially began in 1939, but 2 years before that, Japan had already started its second Sino-Japanese War, part of its push to expand across Asia. By the time Japan surrendered in 1945, the toll was devastating. China was torn apart by famine, civil war, and occupation, and over 20 million Chinese civilians were dead. But behind the battlefields, the Japanese army ran secret experimental units, the most infamous being Unit 731, located in Manchuria, occupied China. Its official name? The Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. Sounds harmless, right? But here's the truth. They never purified water, and as for epidemic prevention, they actually worked to spread deadly diseases. Unit 731 was in reality a massive human experimentation lab designed to create biological and chemical weapons for the Japanese military. The number of victims isn't exact because records were destroyed, but historians estimate between 200,000 and 300,000 people were killed. Men, women, the elderly, children, mostly Chinese but also Russians, Koreans, and others. The unit was founded in the mid-1930s, before the war officially began. Its leader was General Shiro Ishii, a medical officer and bacteriologist. His mission? Turn diseases into biological weapons of mass destruction. He recruited doctors, scientists, and medics, eventually building a team of over 3,000 staff members with a sprawling complex of 150 buildings. At any given time, the facility held up to 600 prisoners, all of whom were used as live test subjects, and none of them ever came out alive. So, what kind of experiments did they conduct? Victims were deliberately infected with plague, anthrax, cholera, and typhoid just to see how fast the diseases spread and how long it would take to kill them. Pregnant women were infected to study the effects on unborn babies. Many of these pregnancies weren't natural. The women were raped by guards to create test subjects. Others were tied down and dissected alive without anesthesia, so doctors could examine the effects of disease in real time. Some prisoners were locked in pressure chambers until their eyes burst from their sockets. Others were frozen alive to test the effects of frostbite, limbs hacked off and refrozen just to see how tissue reacted. Weapons were tested directly on humans: grenades, flamethrowers, bombs filled with plague-infected fleas, all unleashed on living people to measure their effectiveness. Entire villages were targeted with biological warfare. Wells were poisoned with cholera and typhoid. Fleas carrying plague were dropped from planes, sparking outbreaks that killed tens of thousands. For years, Japan used these experiments to develop some of the most horrifying biological weapons in history. And when the war finally ended in 1945, Unit 731 destroyed most of its records, blew up parts of the facility, and executed remaining prisoners to erase evidence. But here's the darkest twist. After the war, the United States secretly granted immunity to many Unit 731 scientists in exchange for their research data. That means many of the people who carried out these crimes never faced justice. Instead, they lived normal lives, some even holding high-ranking positions in medicine, academia, and government. The victims, on the other hand, were silenced. Families never received closure, and for decades, Japan avoided acknowledging the full extent of these atrocities. Even today, the memory of Unit 731 is a painful scar, especially in China, where survivors and descendants still demand recognition and justice. The story of Unit 731 is a brutal reminder of what happens when science is stripped of humanity. When doctors, meant to heal, use their skills to torture and kill in the name of power. And, perhaps the most chilling lesson of all, sometimes the worst monsters aren't found on the battlefield, but in the laboratory. And that was today's story. If it shocked you, creeped you out, or just made you whisper, "What the hell, humanity?" then don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. And if you've got dark stories you want me to cover next, drop your suggestions on our page. See you in the next one.